Hi, it's James Kleinmann from the Queer Review here.
Hi, James.
Hi, James.
Hello, and congratulations to all of you on this wonderful series. I really enjoyed my 10-hour binge. So a question for you all. I just wondered how familiar each of you were with the original comic books when you were first approached about being involved, and why it was something that each of you wanted to devote your time to. Gwendoline, would you like to go first?
It's funny, Sandman was something people spoke to me about for years. For years, people would say to me, there's a series of comics, it's called The Sandman, you're going to absolutely love it, it's so perfect for you, you will adore it. And I was hearing it, but I wasn't acting on it. And then a really great friend of mine, Tim Blanks, told me that I had to read this book called The Ocean at the End of the Lane. And it took me a couple of years. And then I read it and I really fell in love with it. And I fell in love with Neil's writing and his voice and the fact that he's got a real honesty. He's very open and he's prepared to be vulnerable and sensitive about how he interprets and encounters the world, and very free with his sort of electric, wild imagination and really eclectic frame of references. So after reading that book, I knew I loved him and I loved what he did. And then when they approached me about doing this, I just knew immediately it was right. I looked at the comics and the aesthetic was so perfect. The feeling of misfits thrown together, dysfunctional families, this exploration of dreams, sort of everything I love.
Jenna, how about for you?
I had never read the comics before. Obviously, I'm familiar with Neil Gaiman and I'd worked with Neil Gaiman before. But I knew, it's funny, I've never read them, but I knew, I like the images, as soon as Sandman, like the images would visually like come to my head. I knew about Endless and I knew about, so it's obviously got into my subconscious somewhere. But again, it was a complete, I knew I wanted to be part of it instantly. I mean, any opportunity to enter Neil Gaiman's like vast, wild, psychedelic, which has been a very good word for today, imagination. Yeah, it was a complete no-brainer. And then obviously the character of Johanna Constantine just felt, just leaped and bounded off the page, dark and complex and tortured and hilarious.
Yes. Yeah, and Kirby, and your scenes are so moving. That the main episode that you're in is particularly moving. How about for you?
Yeah, I was familiar with the Sandman. I'd read the comics years ago, and actually the character of Death stood out to me in particular because I'd never seen an iteration of Death that was so caring and so soft and so nurturing ever before. So it completely changed my way of thinking back then. So when the opportunity came to audition for this role, like Jenna said, it was a no-brainer. It's amazing.
Yes, there's almost like a sort of a hospice nurse element to
absolutely yeah.
So what did each of you relish about playing these characters, particularly the fact that there's a sort of supernatural element to all of them, really, isn't there? So that must be quite freeing as an actor, I imagine. You want to go, Kirby? Yeah.
I loved the juxtaposition that we had in our episode, which is two endless beings, two infinitely powerful beings just walking and talking throughout London and having the most broad, fantastical conversation amid what is a really sort of mundane setting, just people picnicking in the park and playing football and hanging out, and us having this really weighty chat as brother and sister, but also as concepts, sort of deliberating the biggest and smallest things in life. And I think that that's really beautiful, to have that. And that, that is something that is directly from the Sandman, from the comic. People will know everything down to Franklin's outfit, even the kid in the park.
And Jenna and Gwendoline, how about for each of you?
I think that the joy about being able to be part of something like the Sandman is in terms of tone and genre, like you're kind of it's kind of limitless, and there's like a real sense of theatre as well about it. for me with Johanna, like I very much like the character was so clear, but getting to play the meeting of minds of Constantine meeting Dream, like that was a really a thrilling experience, because she's very much grounded in the human world, but you know, is well versed in kind of the other realms.
For me, I relished the opportunity. I thought the character was completely divine. I loved how laissez-faire this version, Neil's version of Lucifer was. He described being inspired by David Bowie and seeing Lucifer as a junkie angel, and that was fascinating to me. And just how radical that will have felt when the comics first came out in the late 80s. So that was a thrill, but also having been lucky enough to play Brienne of Tarth on Game of Thrones for almost a decade, and someone with such an intense and vast inner vulnerability, to play someone that's actually extremely manipulative and brittle and bloodless and a all-powerful bureaucrat was perfection for me. It was a challenge. It was really tough. It was a stretch, and creatively, it was very satisfying to finally look fabulous.
Well, Gwendoline, Jenna, Kirby, thanks so much. Congratulations again on the series.
Aw,
Thank you very much.